Welcome to the Gravity Well podcast with me, Jenny Yeremy. I host the Gravity Well to celebrate and share the stories of people looking to empower others with the knowledge and skills required to reestablish stability in our communities. My mission is to work through heavy issues in conversation and process in order to lighten the load. I acknowledge that I live on the traditional territories of Treaty 7 and Métis Districts 5 and 6. The treaties and self-governance agreements established by Indigenous peoples were created to honor the laws of the land, maintain balance with nature, and give back to uphold reciprocal relationships. This knowledge and intention are what guide the Gravity Well conversations. I ask for genuine dialogue, real hearts, and openness to different perspectives. This is your invitation to find common ground with me. Positions taken by participants, either individually or collectively, do not necessarily represent those of the Gravity Well. This podcast is dedicated to the natural world, our children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, and all future generations. The Gravity Well is on YouTube and streaming wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you see and hear, remember to like and subscribe. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to have Mikayla Resists in the studio with me shortly, but I'm just going to do a little bit of updates on my own before I bring her up. So first of all, just reminding you, I'm broadcasting from Calgary, Alberta. I've been working on since 2020 the restoration of our province in BC and Saskatchewan, working ways to restore communities, pathways, and waterways with other people who have studied and or walk the talk with me. So Mikayla is definitely one of those people. I'm super excited to talk to her today. So I am also really proud to announce that I'm going to be working with Charlie Angus and the Canadian Resistance community. They're going to have me on the Midas Canada Network as a regular contributor. If you haven't watched them already, I have done a couple episodes with Charlie already. So one in December, it was called The Battle for Alberta, Recall Momentum Grows. And re-released today was our new conversation, what is called Reclaim Alberta, the fight back against MAGA or fascism in Alberta. There's a better story to be told for our province in Canada, and I'm excited to share the people, the places, the plans to reclaim Alberta. So join your nearest OperationTotalRecall.ca team, put up your Canada and Alberta flags like I have done, join the fun. It's time for us to stand up and make sure we let people know that Alberta is remaining where it is safely in the country of Canada and for the Indigenous people of this Turtle Island. So I want to mention something that, these recall campaigns have been moving and they're a struggle. We have a lot of things working against us in this effort. The bar is high. Again, reminding you, if you are a separatist, you only need 5% of the population in order to move forward your initiative. If you care about remaining in Canada, you need 10% of the population to prove that. And if you want to hold your MLA or your ministers accountable, you need 40% of the population to do so. So let's remember the bar is really high. But I want to share a post from John Unger, who put this on the Alberta Never 51 Facebook group page. It's a really important message to the recall captains, the recall leaders. So Alberta, here is the reality hiding in plain sight. Recall petitions were built with thresholds so high they're almost impossible to win, but that was never the real story. The real story is what the signatures reveal. In Calgary Bow alone, we gathered more than 6,500 signatures, people that went to say that they want their MLA gone. Yes, the petition failed, but those 6,500 plus names are not a failure. They are a record. They are neighbors who crossed the line from frustration into action, who put their identities on the record in a way far stronger than a poll answer or a social media post can do. This is why recalls matter for the next election. A recall signature is not a ballot, but it's something politically louder. Documented evidence of voters in the riding who are unlikely to support their MLA or the party that they represent when the next vote comes. This is a behavior signaling campaigns and parties understand very well. Multiply that kind of civic action across dozens of ridings, and you are no longer looking at paperwork. You are looking at a living map of political disengagement from incumbents that no one can spin away. And here's the part that turns from observation into message. If you care, if you are already talking about this with friends and neighbors, then add your name where a recall petition exists in your riding. It's the clearest way for your vote to be your voice to be counted. Not because you expect it to win, but because every signature strengthens the record, showing how many Albertans have already decided they expect something different. That the higher the number climbs, the louder that message carries into every campaign office, every doorstep conversation, and every ballot box in the next election. Thank you so much, John, for your powerful message. It's absolutely true. Mikayla has been working with me on AB Resistance. We're not together anymore, but we've definitely seen the work that goes behind this, and we're really proud with the momentum that we've got going. So between our two teams that are done, so we're the Recall Nicolaides and Recall Pitts campaigns are done. Thank you so much for the Recall Pitt team in Airdrie East. You surprised all of us with your interest in doing this. We knew it was a long shot for you, but you still achieved 2,200 plus signatures. Congratulations. That's again in 90 days with challenging weather, with threats. You know, the leader of that campaign is a school principal and received a number of threats. So it's pretty remarkable what you guys accomplished under those circumstances. Take a bow. So remember that the Recall Nicolaides team is working. I'm working hard to come up with a new name for us, a new effort in terms of a citizens assembly type effort for the next election, to make sure that candidates know what we want from them rather than waiting for them to do it the other way around. So I think that's all the framing I wanted to do. Just a reminder, yes, there are other citizens initiatives happening: the public school funding, the coal mining, Eastern Slopes restoration, public health, schools, water, and more. There's lots happening. So get involved. For me, you can join the recallnicolaides.ca mailing list to stay informed, or follow this podcast, obviously. Okay, so now, without further ado, I'd love to bring up Mikayla. Mikayla, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm super stoked to have you here. So Mikayla is one of the founders of the Alberta Civic Integrity Project. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that and what you're doing with AB Resistance to start with. Mikayla, all the things that you're doing to help resist the fascist forces in this province, please. Thanks.
Okay, so a little bit of background on me is I was on the Alberta picket lines this past winter with my union. I'm an educational support worker, and we were out there for 10 weeks in the freezing cold winter while Danny Girl flew down to Mar-a-Lago to make some deals with Donald Trump. So she was unwilling to negotiate with us and left us out there for quite a long time. So after that, it felt like there was no closure, and I just started paying more and more attention to the UCP and their policies. And I actually started the Alberta Civic Integrity Project with a coworker of mine. And we just wanted to start holding the government accountable and making noise. And that started with showing up to UCP events across the province, which looked like, at the time in the summer, I call them the misinformation panels. So we showed up to a lot of those all throughout the province, and we met so many amazing Albertans and engaged in a lot of different conversations with the separatists. A lot of it is the same rhetoric where they're just angry. And with these recalls, I want people to realize that we're challenging the establishment, and the separatists want to challenge the establishment as well. So we're utilizing democratic tools, as are they technically, because we're all unhappy with the establishment. And if we could come in the middle and have some type of discourse, I've been waiting to have that. It hasn't happened. So with the Civic Integrity Project, we plan a lot of rallies. We work with recalls. ABR, we're kind of like the rally girls. We hype people up. We've been spending a lot of time in Red Deer because there's 2 recalls there. And it's just been fun connecting with Albertans, like-minded Albertans, and listening to their concerns. And even there was a drop of MLAs that are pro-separation and had signed that referendum on the Alberta Republic website. So I called multiple constituency offices to say, hey, you're on this website. Is this true? Have I gotten a call back? No. So I'm just always at them. I'm always picking at them, and I've never had any input back from the UCP. Even on the picket line, I wrote letters for those 10 weeks straight, and I heard nothing back.
Yeah, thank you. I remember you talking about that was a long, long strike for the education workers. And it's hard, I look at even at nurses that have been on the picket lines, what seems like forever as well. And it's really hard to not have people support you and then have to flip around and start supporting others when they're in trouble because they finally see what you saw. So I just want to really throw out a thank you for understanding that and paying it forward, if you will, in all the work you do, because it's tiring. It's tiring to be on the front lines, and so I just really appreciate that you're still helping people see this issue. Please follow the Alberta Civic Integrity Project I know you guys are on TikTok. Are you also, I'm assuming?
Instagram, Facebook, we're everywhere. We're a little bit everywhere.
And you're Mikayla Resists most sites as well, correct?
I'm Mikayla Resists on TikTok, but on Threads, where I've become quite popular, I'm Mikayla in Alberta.
Right on. Yeah, so Mikayla's been pumping the recall campaigns. She's been calling out the stuff. We're going to get into a little bit more of what all Mikayla's been uncovering for us on the separatist front. But let's take a moment. I just want to frame the problem again for people, just remind people where we're at. So remembering, we just did this Forever Canadian petition in the spring and summer of last year. In that petition, we declared almost 460,000 of us that we are committed to remaining in Canada. The question was, do you agree that Alberta should forever remain in Canada? 460,000 of us said yes. Our government took that and threw it in the garbage and has now rewritten the laws to bring in an unconstitutional question with regards to separation. So again, this is not a surprise to us. This government started, the first bill they did was the Sovereignty Act within a whatever Canada. And it's been the same thing. Every single thing they do is the opposite of what they ran on. They promised one thing, they've done another. And just last week, we had a beautiful press conference from all the chiefs from Treaties 6, 7, and 8 got together. Blood Tribe had to do a statement this week to explain call out the misinformation that's happening around their, sorry, I just lost my light there. I'm going to use another one. Around the misinformation around their treaty rights. No, Alberta did not form after the treaties. The treaties were signed before Alberta was formed. They do have those rights. They have the right to say no to this unconstitutional question. So thankfully, there are 3 different legal initiatives that have been put forward to fight this petition from our courageous First Nation leaders. And I'm going to offer an action this week, again, similar to what we did last week, a letter from Sarah Johnson of the Forever Canadian campaign. She's offered some thoughts for us on how to respond to this. I do want to also talk about, because it's something that really rings true to me. So our premier used some language this week where she was talking about how she can't stand in the way of this supposed 30% of Albertans who support separatism. First of all, the only numbers we've seen is something like 15%. We still don't fully understand where that number is even coming from. But yeah, and as you said, Mikayla, some of these MLAs have supposedly signed the petition as well, not surprising. But as Chief Alan Adams said, these are traitors to Canada. That's what we're looking at. We're seeing it in our government. This is going against treaty rights, which again, let's remind people that treaty rights are for everyone. They're not just for Indigenous communities. Treaties mean that we are having balance with the earth, that we are stabilizing the ecology so that we can exist where we live. And so it's really important that those are upheld, and separation is reneging on any of those obligations. So it's really important to understand that that's why treaty is in question. Sovereignty is in question right now. So it's a big deal. And that's really what we have is these recall petitions that we're using the law. As Mikayla said, we're using the law for our benefit. They are taking the law apart for their benefit. So that's the difference between the two sides, I would say. And yeah, let me just offer for you, do you have any comments with that before I offer maybe a story?
No, I feel like you're spot on with all of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing I want to point out is I've mentioned in my second conversation with Charlie is there's a lot of things that will happen in this government, and it will remind me of some moments when I was in the industry. And so one of those moments is in 2021, our now premier was working for the Calgary Enterprise Group, and she brought forward an initiative around R-Star. So I don't know if you remember what R-Star was, but it was what was supposed to be a tax break opportunity for companies to get tax incentives to clean up their wells, clean up their messes in the industry. Well, first of all, we have laws for that. They're called polluter pay laws. They're supposed to be paying for that. So that's not something they should be receiving. And secondly, the benefit for them was that they would keep drilling. So they're also increasing this problem by keeping drilling, and then we're giving them money, we're rewarding them for doing that. So it was a terrible idea, and it was brought to me in my role at the last company I was at. And it was one of these ways, Mikayla, you have to understand there's a lot of compartmentalization in the way that the industry works. And so taxes, for whatever reason, was something I wasn't looking at. And this was considered a tax break. So therefore, it was this other person I was working with that was looking at it. Anyway, she came to me and asked me for my advice, because that was my job, was to recommend based on the impacts it would have to the company. And I said, this is a terrible initiative. This initiative will ensure that there are more wells going into the Orphan Well Association. There will be more bankruptcies. This is a terrible thing for the company we work for, because we're a liability owner. We own a big portion of the liabilities. So I gave my input, and it went away. And finally, it came back in the end. I said, so what happened with it? And the response was, well, we decided not to stand in the way.
Mm.
Same language. So it's really fascinating to me to think about this language of not standing in the way. Yeah, we have to take a stand. That's what you're doing. That's what I'm doing. That's what our effort is all about, is taking a stand and saying, no, we can't allow things that will, take away polluter pay laws, that will take away treaty law, which will take away our ability to have a life in Alberta that is not a toxic wasteland. So I think that's probably the best summary of where it's bizarre of where I'm. My logic is in the state of the world. And you, any other comments with that before we get into some specific updates?
I'm just thinking when you said we need Albertans to stand up, and it's all Albertans. It's every Albertan. And I've been getting a lot of messages where Albertans are having different signings coming to their work and stuff like that. And I'm like, you need to call it out, but everyone is afraid. And we need to stop being afraid. We need to stop hiding in silence. And the more people that call it out, the stronger our movement will get.
That's so true. Yes. Mm-hmm. This is the thing that we are finally experiencing. So actually, can you take a moment and just talk about the journey of AB Resistance? We've had quite the growth spur, quite the undertaking in the last little while here. Yeah. Do you mind sharing a little bit of what you've seen from your end? Because we haven't even had a chance to talk about it.
Yeah. So I was approached by Marg on just a TikTok live. I think I was just ranting and raving, and she met up with me and explained recalls. And I was like, this is a wonderful way to challenge the establishment. I'm interested in it. It was something I immediately believed in. And that was around August of this summer. And as we were talking and organizing and planning, it really sounded like we would be happy with 1 to 2 recalls. And after you filed your recall and the momentum caught on, then we're sitting at 5, 10, 15, 20. And I'm like, wow, this is phenomenal. And a lot of the folks that are running these recalls in their life haven't been political.
100%.
Right? And so I was talking to the leader of the Park, and he was like, I never planned on being political in my life, but everyone's on the line here, and the environment is really big for him, family is really big for him, community, just like all of us, and we want to take care of each other. And I always say, just like the Indigenous people say, 7 generations forward. And that's what we need to be looking to as Albertans and as Canadians and as treaty people. And a lot of people are really starting to understand that. So these recalls have just become like this superpower of a grassroots movement and people mobilizing and organizing. And to me, right there, that's successful.
Agreed. And it's just beginning, like that's the part that's really exciting about this. I understand it's a lot of work and people are struggling to get things off the ground, but I need to remind people involved in recalls, like I had lead time. I started this in January of last year, the actual getting information out in Calgary Bow. And so I had a bit of a base when I started, and that was a really big difference, I think, for our campaign and some of the other campaigns, that people were at least aware of this opportunity out there. So, but all the signatures count, just like that John said to us. So again, I'm just going to plug, go to operationtotalrecall.ca to learn more. If you want to get involved in the background, if you want to help support the understanding, if you want to help get recalls off the ground, if you want to help with the second round, you can also go to abresistance.ca and get involved that way too. The great thing about AB Resistance is there's almost 10,000 members now. So we got to tap back into that database and get us all realigned again after this recall, now that there's so many people coming into this, which is wonderful. Okay, so the other things, I just want to quickly run down some of the activities coming up this week. So I'm just going to walk through those for a bit. Mikayla, let me know if I missed anything though as I'm going here. This is a bit of a rundown. So we've got Athabasca Barhead Westlock area. That is Glen Ben Dickens riding. And that the standing location there is at Lou's Pastime and Treasures, 10111 107th Street in Westlock. That's basically through business hours. Ask for recall at the front counter, and you can go to recallglen.ca to find out more about that campaign. I'm going to combine the two Brooks Medicine Hat and Cypress Medicine Hat areas. So that's anybody who's in Bassano, Dutchess, Brooks, Suffield area, Redcliffe, all of Medicine Hat, south to the US border and east to the Saskatchewan borders. That whole area is up for recall. One of you has Daniel Smith, Brooks Medicine Hat. This is our premier, guys. If we could do this one recall, it would be tremendous. I know a lot of people have said, I wish I could sign that one. If you're in Brooks Medicine Hat, this is an amazing opportunity for you. So please get out there. McBride's Bakery holds regular locations from Tuesday through Saturday. You can check out the hours on their website. There are 2 signing locations this weekend. On Saturday, one's in Redcliffe from 12 to 8 p.m. And that's an indoor one at 26 Main Street South. And then there's one in Bassano from 12 to 2 p.m. That's outside the Pioneer Dam Sitters. Go to recalldanielsmithnow.ca to find out about those 2 signing locations and some events. Oh, and I forgot to say there's a rally at Justin Wright's headquarters from 11 to 12 on Saturday too. So those are your options for this weekend. If you're in Calgary Cross, so that's Pine Ridge, Rundle, Marlborough Park, and Monterey Park, your MLA is Mickey Amery. Again, this is the Justice Minister. He just took away some rights of people to actually access the law this week, all because he's not getting what they think are judges that will give them exactly what they want in our courts. It's bananas. They want both sovereignty, and then they also want to exert their power on the federal government. It's just crazy times. So anyway, so please, Mickey Amery, there's only 9,100 signatures needed for that one. This is a huge opportunity. The team goes out on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm going to be going out with them again on Sunday. I got to go around with a friend of mine last week. It was a ball. So yeah, just go enjoy this great opportunity to explore the city of Calgary and other places of the province. So recall Mickey, MICKEY.ca is for that one. If you're in Calgary East, that's Abbeydale, Applewood, Belvedere, Chateau Estates, Eastover, Erin Woods, Fonda, Forest Heights, Forest Lawn, Pembroke, Red Carpet, and Southview. There are 3 locations this weekend around again, there's an event here to, sorry, just lost it on my screen. There are, because there's a day of action on Saturday, they have 3 locations planned in Erin Woods at the Erin Woods Park, at Erin Woods Boulevard and Erin Woods Drive. There's one in Dover Forest Lawn area at the Forest Lawn Community Hall. That's 4020 26 Ave Southeast. One at Waves Coffee House at Sunridge. That's 2685 36th Street Northeast. All of those are from 11 to 1 p.m. And again, part of that provincial rally day for us. Okay. And you can check out Recall Peter Singh with an H at the end.ca for that one. Calgary Fish Creek. So your MLA is Miles McDougall. That's Lake Bonavista, Bonavista Downs, Diamond Cove, Queensland, Deer Ridge, Deer Run, Parkland, Minneport, and Sundance. There are locations. Whoops, I again gone away from something important. This weekend. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to post that later for us. I can't find that one. I'll just go back to where it was. If you're in Muhammad Yassin's constituency, that's Calgary North, there is a, last week I was talking about a letter that was crafted by Julietta in that area. Please refer to last week's live to send a letter. Make sure you understand he's one of the MLAs that's getting an extra paycheck. He's an assistant minister of multiculturalism. So this is another person that should take the opportunity to reassert his commitment to his constituents, their safety, and resign from the UCP party to make sure that he stands in opposition to what they're doing. So please get after that campaign. I'm going to get back in track here. Okay, then I'll go to, let's see. Rajan Sahani. So that team this week, they're asking volunteers to be visible during drive time. Get out to some spaces where people can find you. That is Lynx Ridge, Royal Oak, Rocky Ridge, Scenic Acres, and Tuscany. And then they are doing some door knocking and lit dropping on the weekends. If you want mobile canvas, please call 825-488-2736. If you live in Tanya First constituency, tomorrow I'm going to be with Chelsea on the corner of 114th Street, at 14th Avenue and 24th Street by the 7-Eleven. That is 11488 24th Street Southeast. You can sign there. And then also on Saturday outside Tanya First constituency office, there will be a rally and a signing from 11 to 3 p.m. there. If you're in the Camrose area, your MLA is Jackie Lovely. There are permanent indoor signing locations at the DFW Career Center at 248 11 51st Avenue in Camrose. There's lots of hours open there. There's also a mobile canvas. You can call 780-281-0797 to find out more. Nolan Dick's constituency and Ron Weeb, those two are also working together across Grand Prairie and the Sexsmith, Greenview, Wembley, Beaver Lodge, and Horse Lake First Nations areas. There are regular signing locations there. At the doors between the Partners Natural and Alberta Labs Services in Grand Prairie. So please check out Recall Weeb or recallnolandick.ca. That's DYCK to find out more. If you're in the Highwood, that campaign is coming to an end pretty quickly too. Please use the mobile canvas for them. They do have regular signing locations at the Okotoks Rec Center, typically daily, but you can also do mobile canvas if you don't want people to see you signing. We understand the threats in that constituency. Use mobile RJ Reca, RECA at gmail.com to do some signing there. Remember that Neudorfs don't bother signing. So Neudorf, it looks like there's some shenanigans that went on with that one. Again, check out the Substack called 86753 Oh My and read about what it looks like, who's behind that one. Don't give your information to that one. It's really clear that it might be going in hands that it shouldn't be. If you're in Morinville, St. Albert, you can call in or text to sign at 368-209-1581. That's for the Dale Nally campaign. That includes a lot of Morinville and a big portion of St. Albert. That's the east of St. Albert Trail and north of Boudreaux Road. And it includes, some areas where close to where I used to live in St. Albert. And then getting to close to the end here. So in all of the city of Red Deer. There are 2 campaigns going, one for LaGrange and one for Jason Stefan. You can go to recallreddeer.ca to find out about signing all of those. Both Mikayla and I think are going to meet each other in person on Saturday at 10:30 at the rally there at the, where is it again? It's
LaGrange's constituency office.
Fantastic. Okay, so we'll be there. If you're in Stony Plain, Spruce Grove, that yoga place in Spruce Grove, there is a 3-hour window daily to sign. You can go to recallmlaturton.ca to find out where to sign there or when to sign there. And lastly, Nate Glubish. So in Strathcona, Sherwood Park area, that team will be out at the community center meeting in the meeting room CC1 from 1 to 3 p.m. this Saturday, February 7th. That's the Strathcona County Community Center, meeting room CC1. Go to recallnate.ca to sign and join. So that's what's happening on the good side of the world. Those are all the people working hard together. Lots of teachers, lots of people who are really concerned about the future of our province, working hard to build community. But what's been shaken on the other side, Mikayla? Can you help us understand all the stuff? Mikayla's been doing a great job of following all the separatist movement, the locations where they're signing, what's going on. So yeah, take your time now. Walk us through some of the things you're seeing in the separatist.
Well, at the beginning of the summer, I was a bit louder when it came to showing up to these separatist events because I'd be in a bigger group. But as time has gone on, more people are afraid to show up. So I was at a referendum signing here in Edmonton about 3 weeks ago at Rundle Park, and I just decided to go by myself and just pretend that I'm one of them and just witness. And it was a very big lineup. I would say there's about 3,000 people there. They had about 4 canvassers, so that's why the lineup looked so big. But the rhetoric that I was hearing in the lineup is a lot of what you hear online. So they were very concerned about a plant being there. They're very concerned about 51st state flags. In a few of the conversations that I have engaged with separatists, a lot of them don't want to be the 51st state. They want to separate, but they want to be an independent, sovereign Republic of Alberta. And so when I show up to these events, I just try to be as nice and respectful as I possibly can, engage in conversations and ask questions when I can. And usually I get some good discourse. I haven't been told anything rude as of yet. Mostly that kind of feedback is online. And that's just what it's been. I went to a rally that was being held this weekend, again, here in Edmonton, and it was Get Carney out of, and the Liberal government out of power. So I went to that one. I engaged in conversation. I asked what the plan looked like to remove Carney. I was like, maybe there's some democratic tools that I'm not aware of. The plan was to vote him out at the next election. I'm like, okay. I also asked them if they are separatists. They said yes. I asked them if they wanted to leave and become the 51st state. They said no. And then I asked them what their government would look like. Would it be a democratic society? Are they looking to have a 2-party system? All the structures seem they want to keep the same. So I keep mentioning separation isn't a solution. It's a tantrum. And if you want to be a part of Canada, which I still think that they do. They're just hearing this rhetoric online that this economically will be better for them, but they haven't even noticed that the talk of separation is damaging Alberta's economy. And so I had a really good conversation with them when I left. They shook my hand and said, thank you for being so Canadian. So yeah, so I've been following the separatists everywhere I can. I try to just engage as kindly as I can, but I feel like as Albertans, we have to be showing up to these events and asking these questions and showing them that there's another side to the spectrum of people that do not want to separate, that want to stay in Canada, that want to honor treaties, that want to keep taking care of our land. And this isn't even an option. But because they have the APP on their side and it's so well funded and we're in this huge propaganda campaign, they're so loud and emboldened right now. They don't even realize that they're speaking on misinformation. This isn't they aren't speaking on any facts. There is no plan. There is no strategy. So yeah, even yesterday, I was just leaving a cafe in White Ave, and I'm standing there, and who drives past me? Separatists. And yeah, I got loud. You need to get loud. You need to let them know that, yeah, we're opposing you. We're not happy with you, and you are traitors. This is treason. It's been called that, and it's going to remain being called treason. It's not changing.
Yeah, while you were talking, I was thinking about the misinformation. So there's an excellent summary by Jody McPherson in the Missive on Substack, where she takes the Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation put out their facts around this. So I don't know if you don't mind, I'm going to go through them a little bit. So
Yeah.
the first one is First Nation consent is required for Alberta to secede. True. Yes, that is true. That is required. Alberta can unilaterally secede. False. They cannot. There's a Supreme Court of Canada reference related to Quebec that helps us know that under international law, the only oppressed and colonized people have that right. So Albertans are not oppressed or colonized collectively or individually. So neither Alberta nor Albertans have a right to secede under international or Canadian law. So First Nations would be better off as an independent Alberta. False. There is a unilateral assertion from separatists, and it's not a position sorted or advanced by any First Nations. So, and I want to just add to your point about this, they're talking about separation being independent. I completely agree with you. I picture it's like a teenager slamming the door of their room, there's no such thing as an independent Alberta. Number one, we are landlocked. So if we were to try and be independent, who's going to run our pipelines? Right now, the Canadian government is paying the tolls for the TMX pipeline. They did not calculate in the cost of pushing tar through a pipeline for more than 1,200 kilometers, and we are paying for that. So what do you think is going to happen when Alberta becomes independent? That tar is not going to be pumped to the coast. What's our next option? Guess what? It's the United States. And if you read the fine print of the APP proposal, which, by the way, is based on the Alberta within a sovereign Canada document that was created by Danielle Smith's former chief advisor or whatever, it says the US dollar will be the temporary backstop for Alberta. Temporary? Really? No. And also, I need to point out that there already is a 51st state. It's called Puerto Rico, and it's not doing well, based on what the United States has done to it. So we don't need to guess what a 51st state looks like. And it's so important that you point out that a lot of people are being misled into believing that there is such thing as an independent, sovereign Alberta. So First Nations have three options in an independent Alberta. That is false. The so-called three options are another unilateral assertion from separatists and are not supported by the law. The land is permanently ceded and surrendered. False. First Nations maintain that under treaty territories were to be shared, not ceded or surrendered. Shared. This is the whole point. It's about sharing and looking after, having mutual respect for things. What is meant by the potential for foreign interference? The potential for foreign interference in the petition and the referendum process is foreseeable and a real risk. We're seeing it. We know that there's $500 million that's been given, like you said, to the Alberta Prosperity Project, and that we're also this talk of a $500 billion backstop from the United States. This is clearly interference. It's clearly been brought in, starting from Jason Kenney back when he got these folks on his cabinet. They haven't left. The loonies took over the party, as he's rightly said, but it was his doing, and Danielle Smith just keeps opening the door wider and wider for this. So there are three different separate legal actions happening launched by First Nations to challenge the validity of this. Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation, has launched a lawsuit against Alberta, the Alberta Chief Electoral's Office in Canada, asserting the enactment of Bill 14 is unconstitutional. They've also applied for an injunction to suspend the section of Bill 14 that removes the requirement of petitions that they must be constitutional. Athabasca Chipewyan First Nation has submitted an application for judicial review, and the Blood Tribe have collectively submitted a similar application. So thank you so much to all of these chiefs for stepping to the plate again, to be the people that have to step up for the people of Canada, to be on the front lines for us for way too long now. I'm really proud to be standing with them and understanding this better. It's very important to notice that the Alberta government has not commented on this assertion from the First Nations, nor has the government of Canada. So we're looking for a response from them. And then the last thing is there is a bunch of misinformation going around. That's why this post was put out by them. There was a separatist facts from fiction sheet, myth versus reality they put out. It's absolute disinformation. So again, I'll put a link to this awesome summary that Jody McPherson did on the missive on Substack for us. Anything I missed in that you want to add, please, Mikayla, or anything more from the separatist activities? Please keep going. I just wanted to make sure we hit that.
Okay, so on the separatist activity front, there is now a BC Prosperity Project that has fired up over with our neighbors. So I tried to make some connections in BC, which I was successful with. And on Tuesday, there was a separatist meeting in Campbell River. So there's a TikToker that I'm connected with, and he said within 24 hours, he got troops rallied up and he had 75 people outside counter-protesting while 80 people went inside. Someone that came to show support was Tennille Johnson for the NDP, who just ran for the leadership race. And she showed up to stand with the people of British Columbia. I just got to let my dog out. Sorry.
All good.
And so Alberta sent, the APP sent Chris Scott from the Whistle Stop Cafe to go to BC and talk about separation. So the APP has a lot of movement, it has a lot of money, it has a lot of power, it has a lot of influence. And if you follow the money, you will find that this is very well connected to the United States of America. And so that's why it's so imperative that we start speaking up, because this is looking like a hostile takeover in a very passive way.
Yeah.
And people think that this is just something that's going to go away, and it's not.
No, for sure. Unfortunately, it keeps growing. As I was, I think, suggesting in the beginning of this, that Wrath has now suggested that we don't even need to take this to a referendum question. You know, we haven't seen the Forever Canadian question, just a reminder for people. It's crazy. And like you said, now it's expanding to another province. I suspect we'll see things in Saskatchewan, if not already.
Yeah, it's already fired up there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, this is really trying to take down Canada through the prairie provinces. And we need to stand united. So thank you for exposing this. Thank you for being able to put yourself in the front line, if you will. I agree with you. I actually would love to try and I'm going to talk to you about how I can start attending some of these things too in a peaceful but important way, because I think it's really, like you said, we have to have conversations. Unfortunately, sovereignty is the question. So I am going to, bring this back around to some of the things I've been working on. This recall is a bit surprising to me in that it's helped me come back into my land-based organizing effort. Like, I've been trying to work with helping people understand the importance of watersheds and the importance of organizing ourselves around water and water security and water capacity, if you will. And so it's really interesting that the recalls have helped me accelerate that effort, in that it's land-based. At the end of the day, they're making us talk to our neighbors. They're making us have difficult conversations with people, rather than what we typically do when we do water work is we meet with people who already get it and they want to talk about it. Whereas now I'm forced to have conversations with my community, which I think is really, really awesome. But yeah, in that, sovereignty is a question. Like, fundamentally, the future is local, and it's on watersheds. To me, that is the knowledge we have to think about, is making sure that we're restoring water in that way. So sovereignty really is a question. If we think about Southern Alberta, I'll be specific. Our Indigenous friends say there is no border. There's no Canadian border. There's no Alberta border. And that's true when you think about subregions. So we are more similar in Southern Alberta. We are more similar to Montana than we are to Edmonton, when you think about the way the water works. So it's really fascinating. Like you said, sovereignty is the right question. We need to have dialogue with each other. We need to know what this looks like going forward. but it's certainly not about taking each other down and dividing us. It's about bringing us all together and doing it well.
Mhm.
Is that a fair summary of what you see too?
Yes, everyone is upset with the establishment and the argument of left versus right. It is power, the top versus the people, the bottom. And that's where we really need to start having our conversations.
So much so.
Because
Yeah.
left versus right isn't getting us anywhere.
No, and this is, we have to be honest with the lack of leadership from all parties. This is truly a political class problem. That's that top problem. Like, they are not giving us real legitimate solutions. They're giving us what gets them elected. And that loop has got to stop. It's putting us way, way out of joint. So I'm going to mention a couple other things that are happening. So we've talked about the recalls. Thank you so much for talking about the separatist stuff. I do want to also mention some of the watershed stuff that is happening. So I'm really excited. Dr. Eunice Alila is coming in to Alberta. He's doing a whole bunch of screenings of his documentary called Trouble in the Headwaters. So if you remember, Dr. Alila was on the podcast last year in our water podcast that I did with Bob Morrison, talking about the impacts of resource extraction. I highly recommend you listen to that episode. He is a brilliant man. He's done what's called attribution science over his 20 or 30 year career. And he's built a way to attribute harm from different industries. So in his case, he's focused on logging. So this is all about overlogging our headwaters, how we need to reverse that bus. So I'm going to be at the one in Calgary, the screening in Calgary on February 17th at the University of Calgary from 7 to 9 p.m. You can get your tickets on Eventbrite. And as I said, they're all over Southern Alberta. So check out, there's multiple locations there. I know there's one in Lethbridge. I can't remember where the other ones are. And I did mention last week that Bob Sanford, who was a part of he co-authored the document that I walked through last week, that the world is entering an era of global water bankruptcy. So I have the privilege of meeting with Bob tomorrow. I'm going to talk about bringing him on here to talk about that work and the importance of dovetailing all of these efforts around water together. Bob wants to do a water committee, so to build some people who are focused on how do we counsel around a new world with a water-centered economy world, let's say. Okay, so ways that you can take action, just to remind people that there is a Red Deer rally. We're going to be there from 10 till 12 on Saturday, February 7th. As I said, you can go door knocking with Calgary Northwest or Calgary Cross on Saturday or Sunday this weekend. Check out those sites. So that's Recall Sawney or Recall Mickey. You can plan a Teachers' Day rally on Valentine's Day. So I'm encouraging the Calgaryville volunteers to join Calgary East to do some canvassing on that day to support teachers, and also to be in solidarity with Public Interest Alberta, who's hosting some events that day too. And then next week, I'm super excited to say that I'll be interviewing Peter McKay. So Peter McKay was the bartering chair for the Alberta Teachers Association. So I'm really excited to be chatting with him same time next week. And so that's everything I wanted to update everyone on. Mikayla, before I go into a final offer for folks, do you have any final words that you want to share? So anything that you would have liked to covered, anything more you want to offer about how people can get involved or take action with us? Take it away.
Just on the Operation Total Recall website, they now have a volunteer button. You just click that button. It lists every single recall. And if they're looking for volunteers within the constituency, or if they are taking volunteers outside, they have everything laid out. It's really easy. And we just need as many volunteers, as many people out on the ground as possible. We can't do this without each other. So
no, and I can say, like, I went out, I'm so grateful to a few, it was myself, Toby, and Lindsay, who joined Calgary East last weekend. It was like Dora the Explorer. Like, we were joking about how much fun it is to just go around and meet great people and then talk to neighbors. And most people right now get it. You open the door, you explain that we are on a path to separatism, and they say, yeah, I want to sign. So it's a really rewarding thing to have these conversations, as Mikayla is saying. And it feels good to support other people in Calgary who are doing this work, and in Alberta who are doing this work. Okay, well, I am super grateful to you for being here, Mikayla. This has been awesome. I know we can have some more conversations. I want you to please keep me in the loop in all the work you're doing. Mikayla's a badass. I'm super proud to be in solidarity with you. And it's just, yeah, I'm so glad Mark brought us together, because a couple of troublemakers, she must have seen our mutual love for this province and our ability to fight back. So thank you for all that you do. So the final thing I want to offer for folks is this fabulous letter. So this came from Sarah Johnson. So I'm going to add this to when I post this in Substack, this will be an offer for you with some email addresses, exactly like Sarah did for us. This is an opportunity for you to reassert our commitment to Alberta and to First Nations. So I'll close on this, Mikayla. So here we go. So to all concerned, I, in this case, Sarah Johnson, a Canadian-born citizen and Albertan, do stand with our First Nations. They are protecting all proud Canadians in Alberta and the safety and the security of all Canadians. I respect and will defend Treaties 6, 7, and 8 alongside First Nations chiefs and people, and the millions of non-First Nations people who respect these treaties as well. Reconciliation has undoubtedly taken hundreds of steps backwards as a result of the actions of the separatist movement, a movement enabled by Danielle Smith and many of her caucus members. In addition to this, I am not at all comfortable paying Danielle Smith's salary or the salaries of her separatist caucus members who are using their position at Canadian taxpayers' expense to divide our nation. Issues can be resolved with dialogue, but removing Alberta from Canada should have never been on the table in the first place. Not on Alberta taxpayers' time or dime, and never at the detriment of First Nations. The entire dilemma has grossly and negatively impacted not only First Nations people, but millions of non-First Nations people who live in Alberta, but also our neighboring provinces and territories and citizens throughout the country. The anxiety and distress caused to date is immeasurable. Thank you, Sarah, for sending this letter. I will do something similar, post it for everyone to follow the same. Again, remember, Peter Singh is another letter that we have from last week. Please have a look at that. Take these small actions, but maybe we will actually push these people to understand that they are on the wrong side of history and they should join us as soon as they can. Thank you, Mikayla. Any last final word before we call it?
Thank you. And thank you for everything you've been doing for all of us Albertans.
Thank you, Mikayla. So glad. Solidarity, sister. Looking forward to meeting you on Saturday.
Yes, you too.